Hi everyone. In this video, we will be dealing with the questions that were asked from structuralism from December 2018 to December 2021 and June 2020 exam cycle merged examination. So, we were dealing with the questions of structuralism for the past two videos. So, here in this video, we will be doing with the remaining questions. So, about structuralism, let's look at the next question. Which two of the following features shall apply to ROLAND Barthes notion of a writerly text? Which two of the following features shall apply to ROLAND Barthes notion of a writerly text? Let's look at the option. In case of writerly text, the reader accepts the meaning without too much reading effort. In case of writerly text, the reader accepts the meaning without too much reading effort. A writerly text tends to focus attention on what is written. A writerly text tends to focus attention on what is written. A writerly text makes the reader a producer. A writerly text makes the reader a producer. A writerly text tends to be self-conscious. A writerly text tends to be self-conscious. So here the question is, you have to identify two features of the writerly text. So let's look at the option. So, before moving to this writerly text, we have to understand that ROLAND Barthes actually uses two terms, that is writerly text and readerly text, to distinguish between the texts that are straightforward and demand no special. That is, he actually brings a distinction between two types of text, that is the readerly text, which he also called as legible text, and writerly text, which he also calls as the scriptable text. So this legible or readerly, scriptable or writerly text. So there are two texts according to ROLAND Barthes, and then this distinction, according to him, is to differentiate the texts that are straightforward and which demand no special effort or anything, and also the texts that require some sort of effort from the reader. So he, in order to distinguish both the texts, he brings the concept of readerly text and the writerly text. So, according to ROLAND Barthes, we can find that a writerly text is an experimental text. A writerly text is an experimental text. It is a site of resistance to stable signification. That is, for example, if a particular word gives to a particular meaning, a particular sentence gives straight meaning to, give meaning to a straight another meaning. So, all these things, apart from that, there would be that is what is called a stable signification. This means that, and that's it. But here there is a resistance to this stable signification. When we get to the conclusion that okay, this means that, we would be like, is that? So that is a concept of a writerly text, a site of resistance to stable signification, characterized by difference and aporia, or the deadlocks in understanding. Okay, so we know about deference and aporia from Derrida and deconstruction and post-structuralism. So a writerly text is filled with difference. Difference means what? The difference with the meaning, and to defer. The meaning is being constantly postponed. Okay, and it has aporia, where you would be in a puzzle state. Okay, where you would be in a puzzle state of this deconstructive reading. So the writerly text is characterized by difference and aporia, or the deadlocks in understanding, It is not captivated by plot alone, but it is the play of language. You read the writerly text not for the plot, not just for the plot, but you will be entangled in the play of language. Okay, so we can say that it's almost like a deconstructive reading where the center keeps on shifting, which ultimately leads to the free play of language. So this free play of language would lead you to the state of aporia and the layering of significance. So you would be captivated by this play of language and the layering of significance. It imparts the reader with a state of bliss or ecstasy or joyance. Okay, it imparts the reader with a state of bliss. You would feel like you're working on a quiz or you're working on a puzzle. So he gives the examples of James Joyce and Faulkner. So here you can find that according to and parallel to writerly text, there is also a text called the readerly text. So a readerly text, that is the one that presents a world of easily identifiable characters. Okay, here as a reader you are just passive. Okay, you just get what the author or what the text actually intends. So a readerly text is one that presents a world of easily identifiable characters. Okay, it presents the world of an easily identifiable characters and events. And another thing is that you can also find that here the characters, their actions, all are understandable. There is no free play. Okay, it is all that is mentioned. It's like the literary meaning of a particular text. So that is the readerly text. So for example, the readerly text, we can find the examples from the works according to Roland Barthes, the works of Annal Bennett or George Eliot, they are the readerly text. But writerly text are the examples of James Joyce or William Faulkner. For example, James Joyce Ulysses or William Faulkner Sound and Fury. These all are, what can we say, are all self-conscious works. These are self-conscious works, self-conscious literary works characterized by an emphasis on the elaborate use of language and free play. Okay, so that is the difference between a readerly text and a writerly text. That is the difference between a readerly text and a writerly text. So let's look at the options. In case of writerly text, the reader accepts the meaning without too much reading effort. No, that is the readerly text. Okay, in case of readerly text, the reader accepts the meaning without too much effort. A writerly text tends to focus attention on what is written. That is also a wrong statement. It tends to focus attention not on what is written, but it is focused, but it brings the attention to the what can we say, to the difference or to the transference of this meaning. A writerly, so that's a wrong statement. A writerly text makes the reader a producer. That is actually one right statement. Here the reader is the producer of the meanings. And a writerly text tends to be self-conscious. That is also a correct statement. So the correct answers are option C and D. C and D comes as option D. So the correct answer is option D. Okay, so I think you understand the difference between readerly text and writerly text. So these are the concepts popularized by Roland Barthes. Now let's move on to the next question. Which among the following theories defines novel as a phenomena, multiform in style and variform in speech and voice? Which among the following theories defines novel as a phenomena, multiform in style and variform in speech and voice? So the options are E.M. Forster, Henry James, Mikhail Bakhtin, Eric Auerbach. So E.M. Forster, Henry James, Bakhtin and Eric Auerbach. So here you know that this actually is a I mean this definition to the novel is actually given by the theorist Mikhail Bakhtin. Okay, it's actually given by the theorist Mikhail Bakhtin in his discourse in the novel. So discourse in the novel, it's actually the final essay of his work, the dialogic imagination, which comprises of 4 essays, and the final essay is the discourse in the novel. So here he appeals for the fundamentally different approach to analyzing the novelistic style. So we know about Bakhtin. Bakhtin is really important from literary point of view, a theoretical point of view, and also from a net point of view. Okay, and he brings the various concepts like heteroglossia, polyphony, dialogism, carnivalesque, etc. And all these concepts are important. So here, when the question is about the phenomena multiform in style and variform in speech and voice, it speaks about the discourse in novel speaks about dialogized heteroglossia. Okay, dialogized heteroglossia. So here, in discourse in the novel, you can find that that's a final essay in the dialogic imagination. He provides a model for the history of discourse. He provides a model for the history of discourse, and then he introduces the concept of heteroglossia. So we know about heteroglossia. Heteroglossia is actually the reflection in language. Okay, for example, reflection in language of various ways in evaluating, conceptualizing and experiencing the world. So we have different ways in evaluating the world, conceptualizing it and then experiencing it world. So the convergence in language or speech of specific points of view on the forms or the conceptualizing in the world, that is what is called as heteroglossia. So here we can say that dialogized heteroglossia means it refers to the relations and interaction between these languages within an individual speaker. Bakhtin gives the, okay, so dialogized heteroglossia refers to the relations and interactions between these languages within an individual speaker. When an individual speaker, he or she is able to or capable of maintaining this different sorts of languages or different bringing up these relations and interaction between these languages, that is called as a dialogized heteroglossia. So here he he speaks about the examples of a peasant. Bakhtin gives the example of an illiterate peasant who speaks Church Slavonic to God, sings songs, speaks to his family in their own peculiar dialect, sings songs in yet a third, and attempts to emulate officious high-class dialect when he dictates petitions to the local government. Now, we can take the examples of our own life. The way in which we speak to God is not the way in which we speak to our family. The language that we use to speak with our family is not the language that we use among the friends. And all these languages would be entirely different if you're writing a letter for the government, or if you're writing a permission letter to your teacher or something of a high status official. Okay, so all these languages would be different. Okay, all these languages would be different. So theoretically, we can say this peasant use each of these languages at appropriate time. Okay, we uses the language that we speak to God only when we speak to God, and we use the language that we speak to teachers only when we use to them. So we use each of these languages at appropriate time because we are prompted by the context. Okay, we are prompted by the context, and this happens mechanically, and we even question the adequacy of the task for which we have acquired them. We don't know how we got to know about how to speak to a teacher or how to speak to the family or friends or the God. So that's something that we acquire mechanically. Okay, this is something that we acquire by the experiences of our world. So, but here we can say that the languages combined within an individuals, they do not exist as separate entities. We don't know which is the language that we speak to God or speak to the teacher or speak to high officials or speak to friends, etc. We don't know. This does not stand in as different entities, but what can we say? They are compartmentalized along with each other. Okay, they are compartmentalized along with each other, and they never interact. Okay, and they never interact. We never speak to our friends in the way that we even not accidentally speak to our friends in the way that we speak to the government. So they never interact. So here is that a point of view contained in one language is capable, okay, a point of view contained in one language is capable of observing and interpreting another from the outside, and this happens vice versa. Okay, this also happens in both. So the languages, they interanimate. Okay, these languages, they interanimate once they enter into dialogue. Dialogue means one text would always be in conversation, it would always be in a dialogue with the other. So any sort of unitary significance by language, they are irrevocably determined by the presence of another way of speaking and interpreting. So we can say that according to Bakhtin, this dialogizing process, that is the dialogized version of the heteroglossia, this is always going on in a language. Okay, this is always going on in a language. So linguistic change, it is not about change, reaction or readjustment, etc. It is inherently chaotic. It is inherently chaotic. It is unpredictable. And why is it inherently chaotic and unpredictable? Because it is produced by the unforeseeable activities of everyday life. Okay, so I think you are clear with dialogized heteroglossia. You can go to the LMS videos where we explain dialogism and heteroglossia separately in order for better understanding. So the correct answer is, so which among the following theories defines novel as a phenomena, multiform in style and variform in speech and voice? The correct answer is option C, Mikhail Bakhtin. So the correct answer is option C. Now let's look at the next question. According to Ferdinand de Saussure, language is an interlocking structure, a system of constant change, a system of signs, a self-standing formation. An interlocking structure, a system of constant change, a system of signs, and a self-standing formation. Okay, so here we know about Ferdinand de Saussure and his course in general linguistics. So Ferdinand de Saussure and his course in general linguistics was actually a foundation for the structural development along with the structuralism in linguistics along with Prague and Moscow linguistic circle. So according to Ferdinand de Saussure, he contended that language must be considered as a social phenomena, a structured system that can be viewed synchronically and diachronically. So according to Saussure, language is a social phenomena and this should be viewed synchronically and diachronically. So synchronically means it exists at a particular time, it exists now. Okay, language now, that is synchronically, and diachronically. Diachronically means the changes in the course of time from Romantic age to Victorian age, or from 20th century to 21st century. So that is synchronically and diachronically, horizontally and vertically. So Saussure, he contended that language, it should be viewed synchronically and diachronically, and in order to understand that, he introduces two terms that have been common, that is long and parole. So we have discussed long and paroles in the previous videos. I'm not explaining that. So parole is the individual utterance of a person, it is the speech of the individual person, while long is the system underlying speech activity. Okay, long is the system underlying speech activity. So, in the tradition of semiotics developed by Ferdinand de Saussure, the sign is didactic, consisting only of a form of the sign, that is a signifier, and the meaning is signified. So, with these in mind, let's look at the options. According to Ferdinand de Saussure, language is an interlocking structure. That's a correct statement. According to him, language is a interlocking structure, it's a social phenomena. Okay, so the A is a right statement, B, a system of constant change. The meaning, the relationship between signs, the relationship between a signifier and signifier is arbitrary, but he never speaks about constant change, because if the language keeping on changing, then there wouldn't be a structure for it. So B is a wrong statement. C, a system of signs. Yes, according to him, language is a system of signs where each sign constitute the signifier and the signified. Signified the concept or the image, and signifier the sound system. A self-standing formation. No, language is not at all a self-standing formation. Everything is in relationship with a broader thing. So A and C are the correct answer. A and C comes as option B. So the correct answer is option B. Okay, so these are some of the questions that are asked from structuralism. So we will be dealing with the remaining questions in the next video. So remember that Ferdinand de Saussure, Roland Barthes, then Bakhtin, all these are important writers who were asked repeatedly for their concepts, their works, their assumptions, etc. for NTA examination. So you have to study these writers in detail. So we will be discussing with the remaining questions in the next video. So that's all for this video. Thank you.